Netanyahu just got invited to be on the board of peace. What? That's the article. Benjamin Netanyahu finally gets his invitation. Here we go, Jerusalem Post. Prime Minister Netanyahu accepts Trump's invitation to join Board of Peace to become founding member. All right, maybe the media is making more of that than there is, but I was like, where's Benjamin? You heard of Where's Waldo? Where's Benjamin? He was nowhere to be found on the peace board stage, but there were a lot of folks there. And apparently Donald Trump is continuing to talk about his disappointment with the UN. I don't know if we have the clip, guys. It's in my stack of things I emailed over, a bunch of clips up today, grabbing clips. And in one of the clips, President Trump says, basically, we can do whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. So it looks like this is more than about Gaza. Jared Kushner got up. He gave a presentation, and, well, I can see why the Trump family is pretty excited about this, and maybe Steve Witkoff and Kushner. It looks like there's going to be a lot of development, a lot of high rises and development. We've already seen one of the PDFs from it from about a month or two ago, where it's going to be basically a digital city. And what else do we have going on? There was something else I was going to say about all that. Oh. Now we have this humongous storm. That's what I was going to say. Have you guys noticed overnight, while this was all going on, I guess, overnight for us in the U.S., the storm that's coming, the track has changed, and now it's headed right for Washington, D.C. And now someone correct me if I'm wrong, did I just see that there's a hurricane forming off of the West Coast? It was the West Coast, right, guys? And I talked to Tina today with Worldview Talk, and I said, we not only have this huge winter storm coming that's going to impact about 200 million Americans. And by the way, Memphis, it's all coming right over top of Memphis. Most of it is the pink, which I think is the ice, which is not good because those trees get heavy, the limbs break, they hit the power lines, and the power goes down. But thankfully, we have a massive generator run the whole show, the whole network. So we plan, Lord willing, to stay online. But everything's coming right over top of Memphis. It's like, Lord, what did we do? What did we do? We had nothing to do with this Gaza peace plan. We're not the ones dividing the nation of Israel. Why is it coming right over top of us? The hurricane hunters are in the storm off the West Coast. So there is one coming. The winter storm that's coming here. Okay. All right. Well, all of this makes one wonder as the map has changed, and now a couple days ago, it was not one. Ryan Hall, the meteorologist we follow, was saying this was not slated to be this big of a deal for D.C. Now it is. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm not going to be dogmatic, but I go back to that book by John Turndon, As America's Done Unto Israel, and all of the things that have happened from George H. to George W. to Bill Clinton to all of them. Whenever we move against dividing Israel, something happens. Remember when, I can't remember the exact phrase. I bet Andy Woods will remember it. Something that George H. did against Israel. And right as that was going on at some conference, poor George, he lost Kennebunkport. You guys remember that? Just devastated his home, Kennebunkport. That's just one of many things that have happened. So I don't know. I'm not going to be dogmatic about it. I'm just saying I find it to be very interesting that this is going on. And while that's happening, the map's changing, and now this storm is barreling down on top of Washington, D.C., also on top of Memphis. So I don't know. Joining me now is Dr. Andy Woods, who leaves a wake of wreckage wherever he goes, just like a storm. Dr. Andy Woods. I don't know why I said that. Dr. Woods, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
That's probably the most creative and maybe accurate introduction I've ever gotten.
I didn't know what else to say. I was trying to do a segue.
I'll take it as a compliment, actually.
That's right. You are a destructor of lies and error.
Yeah. Well, Jesus talked about, he didn't come to bring peace on the earth, but a sword.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Do we have some of the first clips, guys? Have you queued these up? This is, did you watch any of this, Dr. Woods? And
no,
Noah Harari. No, did you hear what Noah Harari said? You know who Noah
Not
Harari
yet.
is? Isn't he the
I do.
homosexual
Yeah.
Jew?
He is Klaus Schwab's, when Klaus Schwab was in power, he was like his right-hand man.
He's Klaus Schwab's mini-me.
He was actually my vote for false prophet.
Yeah, it's true. Well, he's come out and he has said that the best-selling, here is the headline from Israel National News, best-selling Israeli author Harari warns AI will become Scripture's new master of words. Wow, here he is. Let's go. We got the clip. Here we go.
Do you know? As far as putting words in order is concerned, AI already thinks better than many of us. Therefore, anything made of words will be taken over by AI. If laws are made of words, then AI will take over the legal system. If books are just combinations of words, then AI will take over books. If religion is built from words, then AI will take over religion. This is particularly true of religions based on books, like Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. Judaism calls itself the religion of the book, and it grants ultimate authority not to humans, but to words in books. Humans have authority in Judaism not because of our experiences, but only because we learn words in books. Now, no human can read and remember all the words in all the Jewish books, but AI can easily do that. What happens to a religion of the book when the greatest expert on the holy book is an AI?
Oh my. What happens when the greatest expert on the book is AI? Dr. Woods?
Well, in the Bible, who's called the Word? Jesus.
Logos.
The Word, the Logos, the Word became flesh, made his dwelling among us, tabernacled among us. And he's called the Word because what you do with words is you describe. And the incarnate Son of God is the best human description. Jesus being the God-man, the best human description of what God is like, because we really couldn't know anything about God any other way. And then you go to the very beginning of the Bible. In the beginning, God said, keeps saying all the way through Genesis 1, God said. So when he's saying AI is going to take over words, I mean, basically what he's saying is AI is going to take over God. I mean, he's articulating there a system that we've warned about for a long time, that will actually usurp God. I mean, forget the legal system, medical system, all these other things he's talking about. I mean, those just flow out of a knowledge of God with a proper worldview, but he's basically anticipating a world that excludes God when he says stuff like that.
Yeah, this is getting really interesting. All right, here is President Donald Trump with the big blue banner and white writing behind him, Board of Peace. Here is President Trump today.
Really great. They're friends of mine. I think, let me see. Yeah, every one of them is a friend of mine. A couple I like, a couple I don't like. No, I like, actually, this group, I like every single one of them. Can you believe it? Usually I have about 2 or 3 that I can't stand. Usually I have 2 or 3 that I don't like. I don't find them up here. I like every one of these people.
Well, there you go. That's his Board of Peace. And he walked out to applause, and they're all happy to see Donald Trump putting together the Board of Peace. And Donald Trump has openly stated, and by the way, let's add Alex Newman by phone if we could, guys. Alex just texted me. He's ready to join the conversation. He went on to say, guys, or I should say, Dr. Woods, that the Board of Peace can pretty much do whatever it wants. It can pretty much now do whatever it wants. This has gone beyond the Board of Peace. This really seems to be the replacement for the UN, the replacement for NATO. And this to me is historic, biblically speaking, because I think the old order is being destroyed. There's a new order coming in. And I think it is laying the foundation, in my opinion, for the Antichrist system. I mean, I don't know how else you could see it other than this old order that we've been talking about for decades and decades and decades. Did you ever think when Donald Trump came into his second term, he'd be destroying the old order the way he is, smashing it the way he is, and setting up another system? Which to me, he's like the guy that's, plowing the snow to make it easy for the guy to come behind him, right?
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing about Greenland, I know there's arguments pro and con, but I don't remember him running on that. And then when he and J.D. Vance told Israel they can't annex the West Bank, I don't remember him running on that either. And I don't remember him running on we're going to have a board of peace over Gaza. And one of the members is going to be a member of Turkey. And the Pope, we're going to throw the Pope on there. I don't remember him running on those things either. It's just like, and Qatar being involved in that, it's kind of like surprise. So I think he's particularly with the land of Israel, he's playing a game that I don't know if he fully understands what he's doing. He's tampering with forces that he may not really totally comprehend. I don't think he's got the spiritual advisors around him to help him with this, as long as he's hanging around with people like Paula White. I want Huckabee to have more of an influence. But the bottom line is Gaza doesn't belong to him. It doesn't belong to some board of peace. It belongs to the Jewish people. God gave that land to them. They foolishly gave it away in 2004, and they've suffered consequences from that ever since, culminating in the events of October the 7th. And the smartest thing that he could do is just get out of there and let the Israelis clean Hamas out of Gaza.
Indeed.
But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to divide it up. And doesn't that speak of Joel 3 verse 2, where God is going to bring his judgment on the nations in the end times because they've divided my land. Notice it's God's land. And that's
I want to
the
come
game.
back on that before the computer takes it away and ask your thoughts about this big storm that's barreling down on us, saying it's historic and just switched and moved closer to D.C.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Big panel tonight. Big panel we're putting together. Dr. Rob Lindstedt, Patrick Wood, a whole host of guys tonight. Leo Holman on this huge historic day. But we're going to look at it through the lens of the Bible and eschatology. And Dr. Woods is doing that with us now. We're going to be joined here in just 1 second by Alex Newman. Now, again, as I said yesterday, I'm applauding a lot of what Donald Trump has said over there. Yesterday, he was saying some things I absolutely agree with related to climate change, globalism, the stupidity of solar and windmills, and all the other things he was talking about with the World Economic Forum and the globalists and their agenda and their plan, and that, you think you can bring in all these illegal immigrants, and that's how you build a country, that's how you destroy a country. It's so much that he is saying. He's defending private property. He's saying we want in America, we want to defend private property. We want people to buy a home and have the American dream. That is so contrary to Klaus Schwab, who says by 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy. Donald Trump is taking a sledgehammer to the old world order. The question is he knowingly or unknowingly building a new world order? As I said yesterday, it doesn't seem it's going to be the Great Reset. It's going to be the Trump reset, we're going to get a response. And he's not a fan of the United Nations. Trump isn't. He says nice things about them in one part, and then he'll say, well, they haven't lived up to their potential. And he's at other times very critical of them. So it depends on the day. And this is what he said just in the last few hours. Listen to this.
Numerous other things. Once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do, and we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations. You know, I've always said the United Nations has got tremendous potential, has not used it, but there's tremendous potential in the United Nations, and you have some great people at the United Nations, but so far it hasn't. You know, on the 8 wars that I ended, I never spoke to the United Nations about any of them. And you would think that I should have. You would think they could have done those 8 wars, but they couldn't have. And they tried, I guess, in some of them, but they didn't try hard enough. But there's tremendous potential with the United Nations. And I think the combination of the Board of Peace with the kind of people we have here, coupled with the United Nations, can be, you know, something very, very humorous.
Well, he was asked at the White House the other day, are you planning to replace the UN? He didn't say a hard no. Joining me now to add to the conversation is Alex Newman, who, of course, has been covering the UN and globalism. He joins us by phone. Alex, what do you make of all this? I'm sure you're watching what's coming out of there, the Board of Peace, and you just heard my comments. Trump is taking a sledgehammer to the old order, but he seems to be implementing a new order, the Trump order. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Brandon. It's great to be here. And yes, Trump is very clearly working strategically to take apart the old world order. And it seems like everybody acknowledges that. One of the speeches that I paid close attention to was Mark Carney's speech, the globalist Prime Minister of Canada. He is kind of the quintessential globalist, and he said right before the World Economic Forum that their new partnership with the mass murdering regime in China was going to set them up well for the new world order. And this is actually exactly what I have been saying was coming for at least the last decade. And I don't have any kind of special powers to know what's coming. I just read their globalist publications. The CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, the deep state headquarters in the United States, has for years been advocating, really predicting, but really advocating for the demise of the old world order, where you had an unchallengeable hegemonic United States with a dominant economy, a dominant military, dominant diplomatic and business arms, being replaced by what they call the multipolar world order. And it seems like the globalists are now taking advantage of what Trump is doing to bring about that final shift. And if you listen carefully to Mark Carney's speech at the World Economic Forum day before yesterday, he laid it all out. Hey, the old world order was never really that great anyway. You know, America's not really, what they like to present themselves as. America's bad. This new world order is going to be much better. We just got to keep moving there incrementally, and human rights, whatever. So they're moving us now very rapidly toward an overtly totalitarian world order, and we all ought to be very concerned. So like you, Brandon, I'm pleased with a lot of what Trump has done and a lot of what he has said, but we need to see also what the globalists are doing here. They're trying to make lemonade out of the lemons that they've been handed, and I think it's going to be a very turbulent period.
And, you, I, Leo, and a few others said before President Trump was elected that if President Trump surrounds himself with the tech bros, and Patrick Wood, of course, that we could end up looking back and saying President Trump helped put in place the whole beast system for Antichrist. And I don't want to say that about Mr. Trump, President Trump, but it appears we're headed that direction. Right, Alex?
Yeah, I hope not. And I think we're kind of at a fork in the road here. I think what Trump is trying to do, and I think he's sincere, is stop the bleeding of sovereignty, stop the bleeding of American jobs, stop the destruction of U.S. industry, and try to restore American preeminence in business, in technology, in military power. I think that's what he genuinely wants to do, but he's up against very powerful forces that are not just going to roll over and play dead as he tries to undo what they've been working on for generations, right? The next step of the plan is, and has been for years now, the destruction of the United States. The United States government, the United States economy were hijacked by the globalists to rearrange the world system in such a way that eventually we could move toward this totalitarian order. And it does look like that is getting closer by the day, despite the efforts of Trump to really go back to some of what America historically has been. So, yeah, I absolutely share your concerns. I think Trump is taking a gamble here, but it looks to me like he's being set up to be the fall guy for an economic collapse, for a collapse of American power. And some of the stuff having to do with Greenland, he kind of walked it back from the brink yesterday at the World Economic Forum and said, all right, we're not going to use military force. But what's happening is the old system is really showing cracks. Not that the old system was all that great. You know, Mark Carney and I can agree on something. The old system wasn't what it was cracked up to be. But we're watching the cracks in that really expand. And what comes next may not be what Trump voters are hoping for. So,
well, isn't that interesting? Because, again, you and I and several others were saying, are they going to collapse this whole thing on him in the first term? Well, that didn't happen. So then he gets to go around and we're like, okay, maybe this is the term where they collapse it all on him. But maybe before they collapse it, they unknowingly take the things that Mr. Trump is for that you rattled off and convince him this is a way to achieve those things, when in reality, the tech bros have come in with Doge and the Genius Act and tokenization and all these other things, and they have actually used him to help advance the system that will be used once they collapse the system on his watch, if indeed that happens during this term. Now, Larry Fink of BlackRock, and now I guess the chairman of the World Economic Forum, said, we're not moving fast enough. We've got to get to this digitalization much quicker. Listen to this.
I think the movement towards tokenization, decimalization is necessary. It's ironic that we see two emerging countries leading the world in decimalization, in the tokenization and digitization of their currency. That's Brazil and India. I think we need to move very rapidly to doing that. We would be reducing fees. We would do more democratization by reducing more fees if we had all investments on a tokenized platform that you could move from a tokenized money market fund to equities and bonds and back and forth. We have one common blockchain. We will, we can reduce corruption. So I would argue.
Wow. Tokenization. Remember when we were talking about that with the great taking, Alex? So there you go. He says we got to move much faster, which again makes me wonder if they have some traps planned for President Trump economically and otherwise before his term is over and everything will be ready to be tokenized.
Yep, and I think that's what they're preparing for, Brandon. Larry Fink thinks carefully about what he says on the world stage. These aren't just random words coming out of his mouth. They are preparing for, I believe, a catastrophic failure in the purchasing power of the dollar, probably a catastrophic implosion of the stock market. And as we enter this period of economic turbulence, and all you got to do is look at gold and silver prices to see that something is deeply wrong in the financial system. I mean, we've seen 150% increase in the price of silver, maybe 200% increase in the price of silver over the last year, coming close now to a doubling of gold prices over the last year and a half. This is not normal. And just like we saw during COVID, where they used the panic surrounding this virus to implement all sorts of totalitarian measures, we could see panic surrounding an economic collapse used to activate, if you will, the infrastructure that right now that you just described is being built. The tokenization, the Bank for International Settlements, international blockchain ledger, where every asset in the world is tokenized in a digital form, and where you can only interact with this international blockchain ledger using your digital ID and your digital currency that would be brought in as a result of the economic collapse. So I think there's a very significant risk of some sort of scenario like that playing out, and we may be watching the early phases of it right now. So, well,
I mean, you went right where I was going to go next, which was prices of gold and silver today. Gold is at, as we're on the air right now, at 1:26 p.m. Central. Gold is at $4,919 an ounce. We're on the back door of $5,000 an ounce. Now, I remember 10 years ago interviewing guys like Jim Rickards and others, however many years ago that was, and he was talking $5,000 gold. that was when it was in the 1,000 something range. And most people would think that's crazy. And maybe that would have even been in when it was in the 800, 900 range. I'd have to go back and check. But it was like 5,000 was like Armageddon, is like apocalyptic numbers. That's crazy. Silver, $100, silver, at $20 an ounce or whatever, $16 an ounce. Now it's at over $96 an ounce as we're on the air right now. So these are numbers that when we heard them in the past, you thought, can you imagine being alive when gold is 5,000 an ounce? Because you're thinking in your mind, that's going to be apocalyptic. That's going to be hyperinflation. Well, it's not really, but yet it is very inflationary, no doubt about it. And here we are. I mean, these are very interesting times. Now, President Trump, back to the UN, President Trump has stated in another clip that the UN just isn't doing the job. Here's another clip. Here we go.
Everybody wants to be on it. But yeah, I have some controversial people on it, but these are people that get the job done. These are people that have tremendous influence. And if I put all babies on the board, there wouldn't be very much. So he was invited. He's accepted. Many people have accepted. I don't know of anybody that hasn't accepted. But it's going to be great. I think the Board of Peace will be the most prestigious board ever, and it's going to get a lot of work done that the United Nations should have done. And we'll work with the United Nations.
Okay, it's going to get a lot of work done the United Nations should have gotten done. We've invited Bibi, and it was yesterday and then a week ago, Annie called me last night. She said, that you said a week ago that all they need to do now is add the Pope. And I said, did I say that? Because I say so much, I can't keep up with all I say. But I did know I said that. And maybe half of what I say I shouldn't. I don't know. That'll be up to the audience to decide. But I do know that yesterday I said, well, all they got to do now is add the Pope. And i.e. sarcastically. And Annie sends me over an article late last night, says, hey, they've just invited the Pope. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is like reading a Left Behind novel or something. Let's get a response from Dr. Andy Woods on that. And I mentioned to several friends today, I've got this big panel coming on. And these are not even people that are all that interested in deep Bible prophecy. They're all like, when does that air? Who's going to be on it? One of my close friends just said, I've really got to study the Bible more. Where is your Revelation series, Brandon? We'll be right back. What if millions around the world could access Bible teaching and worldview training for free right now without hitting a paywall? That's exactly what happens every day at worldviewtube.com because of the Worldview Weekend Foundation. We don't lock our live stream behind PayPal. We don't restrict our content to members only. Instead, the Worldview Weekend Foundation helps cover the cost of delivering free educational and ministry programming to people across the nation and around the world. And it's not just programming. My Sunday night church service, where I taught verse by verse through Revelation for 18 months, and now I am teaching through the book of Daniel, is made possible through the support of our church, Worldview Weekend Foundation. If you believe this kind of truth-centered biblical teaching must continue, donate today. Go now to worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address and phone number there if you'd rather give by phone or mail. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldviewfoundation.com is one way we're brought to you. Keep pushing all of this out free of charge. Worldview Foundation on our digital side, and then we'll put it back up at Worldview Tube for you to watch. Our Revelation series, as I said before the break, someone said to me, one of my friends, I got to study the Bible more. They said that to me on the phone right before we went on the air. And I said, well, my whole Revelation series, a year and a half, verse by verse, is online. Where? I want to start that right away. lastdaysstudy.com. lastdaysstudy.com. It's all there for free. Brought to you in part by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Let's go to Dr. Andy Woods. Look at this headline from LifeSite News. Pope Leo considering invitation to join Trump's new board of peace. It's starting to read like a Left Behind novel or something. Is it not, Dr. Woods?
Yeah, and the reason the papacy is so important is I've thought, as many of us have for a long time, that the papacy is really the spiritual arm of the New World Order. The papacy basically gives the New World Order the ability to kind of mask its agenda in kind of Christendom talk, spiritual talk. So the Pope has the ability to put a happy face on borders, or borderless, I should say, even though he lives humorously behind a wall. And, of course, if this is a division of the land of Israel, which is what the New World Order wants, you've got to get the Pope on board. And, that's the whole significance of replacement theology. You've got to kind of convince the Christian public out there that what they're doing is, spiritual by dividing the land of Israel. And so what better way to do it than just to say there is no future for Israel as an ethnic nation identity, and the best that can happen to Jews is they could get saved and come into the church age. That's called replacement theology or supersessionism. But, the New World Order is basically a three-legged stool. It's got to have a political angle. It has to have an economic angle. And what most people miss is the spiritual angle. It's got to have a spiritual angle, or else it's a two-legged stool that can't stand up. And so that's how I've looked at the papacy for a long time. They're adding kind of the Christian veneer, the spiritual happy talk to, the political and economic agenda of the New World Order. By the way, real quick, at the Tower of Babel, you'll see all three. You'll see economics, politics, and religion.
And that doesn't mean that you won't see the Protestant denominations involved. You will. You will see that. And I think that's what we got when we saw the Vatican Council II in the 1960s. And they lowered their walls, where they basically had said, look, Catholics, you need to kind of stay in your own camp and do your own thing and listen to us. And then the Vatican Council, under the influence of the Jesuits, comes along and they lower their walls. And they go out and they start working to convert and do interfaith dialogue to basically create a one world religious system. And many, many Protestant leaders and denominations and mainline churches were more than happy. So I want to make sure the audience understands, because I know some people go off the rails and that the whole religious aspect is going to be the Vatican alone. No, it'll be a global system embraced by all of the world's religions. And many of them are going to buy into pantheism. All is God, panentheism, God is in all. And they're going to buy into that, or the idea that man is God, the cosmic humanism. But you have had major Catholic Jesuits influence the Vatican, whether we're talking Teilhard de Chardin, the Jesuit Teilhard de Chardin, who's known as the father of the New Age movement. He greatly influenced the UN. You had Alice Bailey, the New Ager. She was known as the mother of the New Age movement. They even have a prayer room modeled after her at the UN. So then you go to a book written in 1978 by Malachi Martin, I've mentioned so many times. 1978, a former Jesuit by the name of Malachi Martin writes a book in 1978 called The Final Conclave. And he predicts the communist influence on the Vatican. Okay, he has on the cover of the book, he has the hammer and sickle imposed over a picture of the Pope. And he left the Jesuit order and began to warn that the Jesuits were going to work to teach this communism, social justice, liberation theology to the young seminarians, until the young seminarians became the older guys and the cardinals who would then put into place a communist globalist Pope. And he said they would work with the Freemasons to do it as well. And then he wrote another book called The Keys of This Blood. Now, these books were written years ago. I think Malachi Martin died around, someone can look it up, 1999 or something. And I mean, it's ridiculous the things he was saying to look for as a former Jesuit, and that's why he left the Jesuit order, and it's all falling right into place. You want to comment on this? I'm sure you've spent some time, Alex, studying the Jesuits and their whole promotion of liberation theology, interfaith dialogue. Correct?
I have, yeah. Thank you, Brandon. And actually, I just got back from the climate summit in Brazil, and I encourage people to read the cover stories we had in the New American in our latest issue. On the cover of the magazine, we have this demonic creature that the CCP donated to Brazil. They called it the Jaguar Dragon Guardian Spirit of the UN Climate Summit. And that, for me, was one of the huge takeaways of this summit. What we were watching was the repaganization of the world, blessed and supported at every step of the way by Pope Leo. They had this kind of merger between the Catholic hierarchy, which was represented in force. There had never been so many Catholic leaders at a UN climate summit. The Pope was one from the Vatican. They sent a huge delegation. Probably most of the people watching and listening right now saw him or heard him blessing that giant ice cube. But they had a big Amazonian get-together at one of the churches down there. And they don't even hide it anymore. They brought in all these pagan and pantheistic leaders. They brought them in out of the jungle in the Amazon. Some of them were, fake jungle Indians, but some were legitimate. And what you had was basically a repudiation of the Christian worldview. So if you go back to the 1960s, Professor Lynn White argued that Christianity, the biblical worldview, was the reason the environment of the world was in so much trouble, the ecological crisis, he called it. He said essentially the notion that God created man in his own image and gave man dominion over the earth, over the nature, over the trees, over the forests, over the seas, over the fish, over the animals, that was the root cause of the ecological crisis. And so what we were watching in Brazil during this climate summit that got almost no attention in the United States was a repudiation of the Christian understanding of our place in the cosmos, the biblical account in Genesis, and the embrace of a new kind of spirituality that centers around Mother Earth, that redefines sin. Sin is no longer your idolatry, your covetousness, your hatred, your jealousy. No. Sin now is your carbon footprint and the damage that you have done to poor old Mother Earth. And they were out in the open about it. That was the crazy thing. So I agree 100% with Dr. Woods just said. We're dealing here with a three-legged stool for the New World Order, and the spiritual component may end up being the most important because it's the one that provides justification for the other two.
Yeah, fascinating. And by the way, my editor, Jill, fact-checked me. Sure enough, 1999 is when he died, Malachi Martin. And so apparently I'm still firing on all cylinders here. That's always good to know when your cognitive abilities are tested and still intact. So that makes me feel good about myself today. Dr. Woods is shaking his head. Yes, you understand that too, don't you, Dr. Woods?
Which part?
That our cognitive
yes.
abilities are still intact and we can remember dates and things and my name. Always good. Always a good thing.
Yeah. That's good.
That's good. Yes. What do you make of this dragon? I just put it up on the screen for TV people and for radio. It's coming from the article at the New American, and it's got horns, teeth, fangs. It's some kind of jaguar. It's got arms. It's got its arms wrapped around the world. It says COP30, which is kind of ironic too, because on the globe it also appears to. I don't know. Is that a parrot or is that a dove? Is that a dove in between its hands? Alex?
Yeah, those are little doves flying off the earth, which I'm sure is deeply symbolic. But yeah, you have this demonic horned dragon jaguar figure holding the world in its hands. Reminds me of 1 John chapter 5, verse 19, right? The whole world is in the power of the evil one. And then you have the little peace doves flying off in an apparent panic. But this was the official guardian spirit of the UN Climate Summit. So it's right out in the open now.
And is that religious icons all over it too, like a cross and stuff?
Well, it's hard to know for sure. The CCP gave their official explanation of what everything's supposed to mean, and I think what you just pointed out, the same thing jumped out at me. My guess is we're not getting the whole story from the artist and the CCP that created it. My guess is the symbolism on there is very, very intentional, even if they're not explaining it fully.
Well, what it reminds me of, Dr. Woods, peace, okay? You've got the Antichrist promising and coming first with the first horsemen of the apocalypse, peace, a false peace, and now the doves are flying away because it's a false peace. I mean, tell me if you think I'm reading too much into that off the top of my head here.
No, it's very common in paganism to take what the Bible says and invert it, twist it around. I mean, Islam does that with their rendition of who the Messiah is, and you compare what their rendition is versus what the Bible says about the Antichrist, and you see these interesting parallels. But big picture stuff, I mean, this is the woman rides the beast, Revelation 17. I mean, the woman is a religion coming out of a city, and she's on top of the beast, which is the political structure of the Antichrist rising out of that 10 king or 10 region confederation. And so one of the things I've thought for a long time is that the whole separation of church and state, argument that liberals have been trumpeting for so long is going to disappear. What they mean by separation of church and state is get proper Christianity, a proper biblical worldview out of the public square, and let's replace it with a pagan religious type worldview. And we just saw it, didn't we, on our TV screens? I mean, Don Lemon and his associates just acted like stormtroopers in a church. And when he grabbed the microphone and confronted that pastor, he claimed he was doing it as a Christian in the name of Christ. And his Christianity was compelling him to do this. So I'm thinking these kinds of things are going to become more and more commonplace. The left used to trash the Bible constantly, but now it's like they've discovered what a neat book the Bible is, and they're going to twist it and contort it and distort it, to promote their, godless worldview. And so this merger between politics and religion, I think it's going to accelerate.
I want you both to respond to this before you have a hard break. Computer grabs it, come back. The new Gaza plan, coastal tourism, transportation hub. Listen, the White House put this clip out today. I think it's Jared Kushner, the son-in-law.
Some of the demolition, and then New Gaza. It could be a hope, it could be a destination, have a lot of industry, and really be a place that the people there can thrive, have great employment. Once this starts going, we think there should be 100% full employment and opportunity for everybody there. And we have a lot of data on what can be, but we think that this really gives the Gazan people an opportunity to live their aspirations. But it all starts.
Okay, 10 billion plus expected GDP in 10 years by 2035, 500,000 jobs. 25 billion in investments, and it goes on from there. This is exactly what we predicted, Alex. We said, look, they're going to end up turning this thing into the Mediterranean apartment complexes and whatnot, and probably a digital 15-minute city, and say, look what we can do. I mean, can you imagine if we can take Gaza and do that? Imagine what we could do with Detroit, Michigan, or any of these other places in America that have become just, blight infested that nobody even wants to go into. Let's build skyscrapers and make digital cities and control everything. And I want to get your response to all that when we come back, folks. A lot more clips to play and commentary by my guest, Alex Newman of libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org, Andy Woods of AndyWoodsMinistries.org. We'll be right back. By the way, don't forget, Crosstalk Jim Schneider coming up, 2 p.m. Central. Be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage, and now, real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, guys, don't forget Crosstalk with Jim Schneider, 2 p.m. Central, right here on this VCY America Radio Network. And if you don't have one of their blowtorch stations like the Toma station in your market, you can certainly go to vcy.org, even if you jump off for a while from Worldview Tube and go over there. We don't care. We're all team players. We all been working together for 30 years. Can you believe that? 30 years. vcy.org, vcy.org. By the way, had a big meeting today with my team, my IT guys, and we should have for you very soon. I saw some of I signed off on some of the way the pages will look for our brand new Apple TV channel, that helps us push out more free Christian worldview programming. All right, joining me now, Andy Woods and Alex Newman. Alex Newman is at libertysentinel.org. Andy is at andywoodsministries.com. All right, guys, let's go to you first, Alex. Digital cities, we've seen the PDF on this. Jared Kushner, a Jewish gentleman, the son-in-law of the president says we're going to build skyscrapers. It's going to be gorgeous and 100% employment, et cetera, et cetera. What do you make of all this? And by the way, I keep waiting. I'll let Dr. Woods respond to this one. I keep waiting for the Ben Gurion port to come through there and then cut a big old canal through there. But go first, please, Alex.
I think what we have been talking about with Gaza is about to become a reality. They're going to use it as a test site, a totally controlled city where permission to access everything. They're going to use it as the pilot to show, hey, all the big banks can make a bunch of money. You heard Jared Kushner. I don't know if it was in the clip he just showed, but you heard Jared Kushner talking about the investment opportunities here. This is going to be, I think, a demonstration, just like you said, of what can be done. And I think to Dr. Wood's point, the prophetic implications here are huge. I don't know if people still remember the photos and the videos of actually the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, dragging Jews out of Gaza, so that the Arabs there could demolish the synagogues and all the rest of it. It has really now come back to bite them in a major way. And we have to remember, too, the people of Gaza actually voted for Hamas, right? So we've got a serious problem here on multiple fronts. And I think to say that I'm skeptical of this Board of Peace idea completely remaking Gaza would be an understatement.
Yeah, an understatement. Can you respond to that, please, Dr. Woods, and then add in the part about the Ben Gurion port, which you and I have kind of been saying we think that's eventually going to cut right through there.
Yeah, you put this Gaza super city or whatever it is they're doing there, and you put that in with the Ben Gurion port, and that's going to exponentially compound the wealth of Israel. And that's Bible prophecy. Ezekiel 38 verses 12 and 13, is very clear that those nations will come against Israel in the last days to gain her wealth. And the other thing that kind of bothers me about this whole thing and why I don't think we would all agree it's a long-term solution is that the Kushners and Trump and everybody, Witkoff, they have this idea that, boy, if we could raise everybody's socioeconomic status and kind of give them an economic incentive, then they'll put away their Hamas-related activities. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's the false assumption that these people are going to be satisfied with wealth. They won't be satisfied. Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of 9/11, he came from, if I remember right, a wealthy engineering type of family, one of the wealthiest, I think it was from Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
And the same with Mamdani of New York. I mean, he's a red diaper baby. He's came from a wealthy, affluent home. So just throwing money at people, the wrong kind of people, I should say, is not going to fix anything. It's the agenda of Islam that has to be changed, and that can't be changed unless someone has their internal value system changed. So all this stuff that the Trump administration is doing, to me, it's predicated on a false assumption.
Basically, it's a humanist system that just says if we can set the right environment, man will basically be good.
Yeah.
Right? And so it is the same thing that you see taught in most of our churches today, even among the Reconstructionist crowd. Tim Keller basically taught this same thing, as I document in my book, Marxianity. We just set the right environment, and these kids will stop being crooks and thieves. So they're only crooks and thieves because they have not. We give them some haves, they'll stop, as though, again, man is basically good, so we just set the right environment, the good will overshadow. Now, let me ask you a quick...
real quick, if you educate a blue-collar thief, what do you get? You get a white-collar thief. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You like that one, did you, Alex?
Yeah, right. I forget who said it, but just education without values, without morality from the Bible, just creates more sophisticated psychopaths and megalomaniacs, which is not what we need. So
no, it's not what we need. You just get more Adolf Hitlers and people like Castro, who, by the way, I think was trained in a Jesuit school. Castro was, by the way. And didn't we have a Jesuit down in Latin America, South America, fighting with all the communists? The Jesuit, was his name Carney? He went missing. I don't think they know. They still to this day don't know where he's at. Let's talk about the weather. Dr. Woods, I quoted John Turnan's book, As America's Done Unto Israel. Do you see any comparison? Here we wake up today and this map of this storm has shifted. Now it's just going to come barreling down on top of Washington, D.C., according to some meteorologists. And it's dividing the country in half. They're saying it's going to be historic. They say if one guy said last night, I think it was the Hall guy, Ryan Hall, if you're not one that is prone to following the weather, that will change this weekend. Do you find this just to be coincidental? This is all happening?
Well, I think it's John McTernan, right?
That's right, guy? John McTernan. Thank you.
Yeah, and he wrote some great stuff, and he drew our attention to all that when, at the time, Secretary of State James Baker was saying to the nation of Israel that they weren't going to guarantee, I think it was loans or something to that effect. And the moment they went down that road, and then they went to Madrid, if I remember right, the first Bush administration, and started talking about chiseling up the land of Israel, is the moment everything started to kind of unravel for Bush Sr. And he had just come off the Gulf War. He had a 90% approval rating. And then he ends up losing to a totally unknown person, from a little tiny state, a guy named Bill Clinton. And, you already talked about the storms hitting his house. And what do I do with all that? I just say, well, that's real interesting. I don't have any extra biblical insight saying, thus saith the Lord, this is what's happening. It's just, how many times in your life can you be struck by lightning?
True that.
And these things just kind of keep happening. I do know this much.
Stay tuned for a Crosstalk. Okay. Jim Schneider coming up next. Take care, guys. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on Worldview Tube. I think Alex had to go because he's on the VCY side. That just leaves Dr. Woods with us. Dr. Woods, finish your statement there when you got cut off by the computer.
Well, I do know this much. When you look at the big picture biblically, there isn't a nation in history that has tampered with Israel that hasn't found itself on the ash heap of history. And let's go just right through the Bible. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome. You go into modern times of Hitler's Third Reich that was supposed to last 1,000 years. You can go into the sun never setting on the British Empire, and how in Spain and, countless examples how those empires are doing fine until the moment they turn their back on Israel, then things started to unwind. And so it's just hard for me to look at things like this and say it's just coincidental.
He said, I guess Kushner, the Daily Mail's reporting, and we have the full speech, that they had planned originally to create a free zone and a Hamas zone in Gaza. That's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. To think again, you could include Hamas in any of this. But he said, then we said, you know what? Let's just plan for a catastrophic success. Hamas signed a deal to demilitarize. That is what we're going to enforce. Yeah, well, good luck with that, guys. Good luck with that. He revealed that Hamas's heavy weapons will be decommissioned immediately, while small arms will be decommissioned by sector by the new Palestinian police, which could include members of Hamas after vigorous vetting. Well, this thing is... Right now, this tells me this will fail. This will fail until they fix that problem. You can't have a healthy body with cancer. Hamas is a cancer.
Well, the other thing they're overlooking is they're acting like they're dealing with someone that's, signing a Manhattan hotel deal, someone acting in good faith. When you're dealing with Hamas and you're dealing with Islam at all, there's concepts in their philosophy and religious system called, hudna and taqiyya. Taqiyya allows you to lie as long as you are advancing the causes of Allah. And hudna is any peace you enter into, it's only temporary. It's understood that it can last a maximum of 14 years at most. But it's always looked at as, one step backward, 2 steps forwards. So this whole thing that they're doing, despite the money that they're pouring into this, it's not going to be a lasting solution.
No, it will not. Let's see. What else do we have here before we let you go, Dr. Woods? This guy makes a good comment about how fast this has all happened. Here we go.
It's a great honor and a massive responsibility for me, for my team, for all of us to be here with you to begin this journey. Who would have thought 2 years ago that we will be sitting here with this group of countries, with this leadership, giving the people of Gaza a new chance? Who would have thought that last Friday I would be sitting, Mr. President, in Cairo with an amazing group of Palestinian technocrats, people who you don't see on the news, people who are not media personalities, but who are experts, who are committed to giving their people a chance in life. And this is what this is all about. For too long, Gazans, Palestinians and Israelis have lived with conflict, with death, with destruction. Now the page turns. And whether the page turns successfully really depends on all of us. We have the ingredients for it. We have the leadership of the United States and President Trump. We have a great group of countries joining the Board of Peace and more to come. We have a fantastic Palestinian team on the ground, and we must make it work. Our partnerships are there, our plans are in place, and we need your support. And finally, I look to all of you who are in this room and who are watching this meeting from their screens at home or in their offices. Please put away your talking points for a minute. Please put away your fears. Please put away your concerns. Please stop listening to the rumors and to the gossip. Focus on what we have to do today, because the future of 2 million Palestinians is at stake, and if we give them a chance, we will do more than that. We will create opportunities for 1 billion people who live in the Middle East and beyond, and who are responsible, also who want to see transformation and a chance in life for the future. So please join us on this journey, join the Board of Peace, and join us in supporting this excellent initiative. And thank you again, President Trump.
Wow. And so even they are shocked at how fast this is moving. And again, it's not even moving as fast as it's going to. It seems as though the very first chapter of Revelation says when these things begin to unfold, they will happen very quickly. So if we think these things are moving fast now, as the old saying goes, we ain't seen nothing yet. Right, Dr. Woods?
Yeah, I think that's the meaning of tokos let's see, enges and melo. Those are three Greek words used in the book of Revelation, the beginning of the book and the end of the book, about quickly, soon.
Quickly, soon. And boy, we're going to have a big panel tonight, folks, on Brandon House Live. Don't miss it. May God save America. Thank you, Dr. Woods. Remember us, worldviewfoundation.com. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brandon House.